I've always thought of myself as the quiet one in the family, the one who blends into the background, who takes care of things without needing any recognition. It's not that I mind. I've always felt comfortable in that role. But there are moments, like this one, when I wonder if it was worth it. My name's Emily. I'm 25, and I've spent my whole life trying to keep everything together. I'm the one who remembers birthdays, who picks up the slack when people forget their responsibilities, who makes sure the bills get paid, the groceries get bought, and the family doesn't fall apart. It's just what I've always done. And I didn't mind it, until recently. I grew up in a small town, one of those places where everyone knows everyone, and your reputation follows you everywhere. The kind of place where you're expected to fit in, keep your head down, and be part of the community. Our house was small, nothing flashy, but it was home. My dad worked as a mechanic, fixing cars in a cramped, grease-stained garage. My mom worked as a receptionist at the local dentist's office, answering phones and scheduling appointments. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and steady was good enough for them. Then there was Luke, my little brother. He was 2 years younger than me, but we were worlds apart in every other way, where I was responsible, reserved, and hardworking. Luke was impulsive, reckless, and always looking for the next thrill. From the time he could walk, it was clear that he'd be trouble. I remember the first time he snuck out of the house when he was just 14, climbing out his bedroom window and disappearing into the night. I was 16, old enough to know better, but still naive enough to try and cover for him when Mom and Dad came home, furious the next morning. Luke was always a handful, but for some reason, my parents seemed to have endless patience for him. It didn't matter how many times he messed up. It didn't matter how many chances he got. They always found an excuse for him. He's just going through a phase, my mom would say, brushing off his latest stunt. Boys will be boys, my dad would mutter, shaking his head but offering him yet another second chance. I, on the other hand, was the one who kept everything in line, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who stayed in school, got good grades, and never missed a deadline. I made sure I was the one who picked up the slack whenever Luke didn't show up to his own responsibilities, but no matter how much I tried to do everything right, I always felt like I was invisible. Luke got the attention. Luke got the sympathy. And I just kept quiet and did what needed to be done. The only time I seemed to matter was when something went wrong. When Luke flunked a class, I was the one who got called in to help him study. When he broke up with a girlfriend, I was the one who stayed up with him until 2 a.m., listening to him talk about how unfair life was. When he couldn't hold down a job because, naturally, he was always late or hungover or not showing up. Allie was the one who tried to help him find a new one, made excuses to our parents, and helped cover the rent. I wasn't resentful at first. I loved my family, and it felt good to be needed. But as time passed, something started to shift. I began to realize that the more I gave, the less I got in return. It wasn't just the small things anymore. It was everything. My parents never seemed to see it. They were too wrapped up in Luke's latest crisis to notice how much I was putting up with, how much I was sacrificing. Mom always said I was her rock, the steady one she could count on. But what she didn't realize was that being her rock didn't make me strong, it wore me down. There was no room for me to fall apart, no space for me to have a meltdown, or make a mistake. I was supposed to be perfect. And the more I tried to be, the more invisible I became. By the time I graduated from college, I had already started to notice the toll it was taking on me. I got a decent job in marketing, which was a relief in many ways, but it also meant I was further removed from the small-town life my family still lived. They'd been proud of me, sure, but part of me always wondered if they were just proud, that I was doing something they could point to and say, "Look, she's fine, she's got it all together." And maybe they were right. I was doing okay, but I was so exhausted. Luke, on the other hand, hadn't changed much. He dropped out of high school, bounced around from job to job, and never stayed anywhere long enough to build anything substantial. The few times he did manage to hold down a job for more than a couple of months, he ended up getting into trouble for something usually related to drinking or his lack of responsibility. But instead of facing consequences, he'd just move on to the next thing, and Mom and Dad would shield him from the fallout. It was frustrating. I tried to help, tried to show him how important it was to take life seriously, but nothing ever stuck. Every conversation with him felt like I was speaking a different language. He never took my advice to heart, and every time I pushed him, he'd just pull away, treating me like I was lecturing him. The worst part was that it felt like he had no consequences for his actions. Whenever I messed up, however small the mistake, I was held accountable. But when Luke did something stupid, there were always excuses. "He's just going through a rough time," my mom would say, or, "He didn't mean to do that," Dad would add. I loved my brother, but I was starting to feel suffocated. It wasn't just the burden of being the responsible one. It was the weight of carrying my family's expectations and their refusal to see how hard it was. It was like I was invisible in my own family, always doing the right thing but never getting the recognition, never getting the love I needed in return. They were always so focused on Luke's mistakes, his wild behavior, that they never noticed how I was slipping through the cracks. And then, things started to get worse. Luke's latest string of poor decisions finally crossed a line, and that was when everything started to unravel. The tension had always been there, lingering just beneath the surface. But it didn't really start to unravel until that morning, when Luke asked me to help him out with his mess. It was a Sunday, and I had just finished a quiet breakfast when my phone buzzed. It was Luke. I frowned at the text message. "I really need your help. Can you come by my place? Something went wrong at work." I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew it was going to be another one of those days. Luke had a way of getting himself into situations that seemed small at first, but always turned into big problems. I grabbed my keys and drove over. When I got to his apartment, the door was already cracked open, and I could hear him moving around inside. I knocked gently and stepped in. The place was a mess, like it always was. Empty beer cans on the counter, clothes strewn all over the floor, and fast food wrappers crumpled into balls. Luke was sitting on the couch with his head in his hands. When he saw me, he looked up, eyes wide, a mixture of anxiety and frustration on his face. "Hey," I said cautiously, closing the door behind me. "What happened?" He motioned to the couch. "Sit down. I need to talk to you." I took a seat beside him, but the air felt heavy, like something was about to drop. "Okay, what's going on?" I asked. Luke ran a hand through his messy hair, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I got into some trouble at work." I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of trouble?" Luke hesitated for a moment, his eyes flicking nervously toward the floor. "I messed up a delivery, badly, crashed the truck into a barrier, totaled it." I felt a pit grow in my stomach. Luke had been warned about his drinking on the job for months now, but he always brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. "How bad is it?" I asked, my voice steady but edged with concern. "They're gonna fire me," Luke said quietly, "and they want me to pay for the damages. It's a lot, Em." The weight of his words settled over me. He didn't have the money to pay for the damage. He was barely scraping by, working a delivery job to make ends meet, and now this. The stress of it all was clearly starting to break him. I could see the panic in his eyes, and for a moment, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. "Luke, you know you shouldn't have been drinking," I said softly, trying to keep my frustration in check. "You've got to take this seriously." "I know, okay," he snapped, his voice rising. "I know, but I'm asking for your help. I don't know what else to do. Can you come to the company with me? They'll listen to you. You know how to talk to people. Please, Em. I can't do this alone." His voice cracked a little as he said it, and I knew he wasn't just asking for help with the situation. He was asking me to fix it for him, and I hated that. I hated how he always expected me to clean up his messes, to smooth things over, to take responsibility for everything he couldn't handle. I sat there for a moment, trying to process what he was asking. He wasn't even trying to take accountability for his actions. Instead, he was relying on me to take the heat off him, to somehow make everything okay. But this wasn't the first time I had done this for him, and a part of me was starting to snap. "Luke, I can't keep bailing you out," I said slowly, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and exhaustion. "You have to deal with your own consequences. This is on you." He immediately flinched, looking hurt by my words. "You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be me, okay? I've been trying. I swear I have. I cut him off before he could continue. "No, you haven't, Luke. You haven't tried. You just keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and you expect me to clean it up for you. I can't keep doing this." The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, I wanted to yell, to scream at him, but I knew it wouldn't help. It would just push him further away, and I wasn't sure I could handle that anymore, but I had to say something. I had to draw a line. I stood up from the couch and turned toward the door. I'm sorry, but I can't help you with this. And Luke's voice was small, pleading, please, but I didn't look back. I just walked out. It didn't end there though, not by a long shot. The next day, I called Mom. I needed to let her know what had happened, to warn her about the fallout, but the conversation turned into something I wasn't prepared for. Mom, Luke is in trouble. He really screwed up this time, I started, trying to sound calm. He crashed the delivery truck and now the company wants him to pay for the damages. They're talking about firing him, too. Mom didn't say anything for a moment. I could hear the sound of the TV in the background, some daytime talk show blaring. Finally, she spoke. Well, you know how Luke is, she said, almost dismissively. He'll figure it out. He always does. What do you mean, he always does? I felt my frustration rising again. This isn't something he can just fix with his charm. This is serious, Mom. He can't keep screwing up and expecting everyone else to clean up his mess. There was a long pause. Emily, why do you always have to make everything such a big deal? Luke's fine. He's just going through a rough time. You need to stop being so hard on him. I couldn't believe it. She was defending him, again, without even acknowledging how bad things had gotten. Mom, you're not seeing it. He's going to lose his job, and it's because he doesn't take responsibility for his actions. I'm not going to be the one to fix this for him this time. I don't need you to fix anything, Mom replied, her voice sharp now. Just let him figure it out, okay? He doesn't need your constant criticism. And just like that, my heart sank. I'm not criticizing him, Mom. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to make you see that this is a problem, but you keep pretending like everything's fine. I don't need you to tell me how to handle my son, Emily, she shot back. I'm his mother, and I know what he needs. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened as I tried to respond, but I couldn't find the words. I can't do this anymore, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. I can't keep watching you enable him while I'm left to pick up the pieces. And with that, I hung up. The next day I got a text from Luke. It was simple. Can you please help? I don't know what to do. But I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say, and I was done pretending like it wasn't my problem. The truth was, I was angry. Angry at Luke for never growing up, for always relying on me. Angry at my mom for always choosing him over me. Angry at myself for always trying to fix things, for always putting others first, and getting nothing in return. And now, I felt like I was losing everything: my family, my sense of responsibility, my peace of mind. I was done. It was a Saturday evening when everything finally broke. I'd been stewing over the argument with my mom for days, and Luke's continued refusal to take responsibility only made things worse. My frustration had reached its peak, and the thought of even looking at them made my stomach churn. I was walking around in a fog, constantly battling the anger and hurt that gnawed at me from the inside. I'd tried to avoid my family after the last conversation with Mom, but Luke didn't let up. He kept texting me, asking for help, almost pleading. I didn't respond, but I could tell he wasn't giving up. I honestly didn't know if I could even look him in the eye without losing my mind. I was so tired of being the one to fix things, tired of being the emotional caretaker, tired of constantly being the responsible one, while my family turned a blind eye to the messes Luke kept making. Then, that evening, my phone rang. It was my mom. She never called unless it was something important. I hesitated for a moment, feeling the familiar sense of dread flood over me, but I picked up anyway. Emily, she said, her voice calm but tight, like she was holding something back. Luke's in trouble. We need to talk. I didn't even need to ask for specifics. I already knew it was bad. This wasn't just another small mistake he could brush off. This time, it felt different. What happened? I asked, my voice suddenly cold. I didn't have the energy to fake concern. He got arrested. Emily Mom's voice cracked just a little, and I could tell she was trying to keep it together, for stealing from his boss. He's in jail right now. The police are saying it's serious. I felt a cold rush of shock, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. My mind was racing. Stealing Luke. This wasn't the careless mistakes I was used to hearing about. This was real. This was criminal. Mom, I said slowly, struggling to keep my voice steady. This is what I've been trying to tell you. He's not just going through a phase, he's a mess, and you keep enabling him. Look where it's gotten him. I could feel my pulse quicken, a mixture of anger, frustration, and sadness. But then my mom's voice cut through the noise in my head, sharper than I expected. You don't understand, Emily, she said, almost defensively. You don't know what it's like for him. He's had a rough life, and he doesn't know how to cope with it. You think you're better than him, don't you? Just because you've got your life together. Well, guess what? He's my son, and I'm not going to just turn my back on him like you seem to be doing. Her words stung more than they should have. I felt a knot twist in my chest, and for a split second, I couldn't breathe. I'm not turning my back on him, I shot back, my voice barely above a whisper, tight with hurt. I'm just tired of being the only one who cares about fixing everything for him. He doesn't take responsibility for any of his actions, and I can't keep doing this, Mom. I just can't. You don't have the right to say that, she hissed, her voice rising. You don't know what it's like to be a parent, to see your child struggle. Maybe if you were more understanding, he wouldn't have ended up like this. I felt a hot, furious surge of emotion, anger, betrayal, confusion. It wasn't just about Luke anymore. It was about the years of being overlooked, of being the good one in the family. The one who held everything together while Luke got away with one mistake after another. And now, with all of it finally coming to a head, I was the one being blamed for everything. I've been understanding for years, Mom, I almost shouted, my frustration spilling over. I've tried to help him, but he doesn't want help. He just wants me to clean up his messes, and I'm done. I'm done being the one who picks up the pieces while you pretend like everything is fine. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. For a moment, I thought she might actually get it, might finally understand where I was coming from. But then, just as I started to hope, she spoke again. You know, you're just like your father, she said, her voice low, almost a whisper, always so ready to walk away when things get tough. I don't know how you turned out so cold. The words hit me like a slap. Cold. She called me cold. Me, the one who had spent my whole life trying to be the stable one, the responsible one, and yet, here I was, being called the problem. It felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me, leaving me dizzy and lost. Cold, I repeated, my voice shaking now. I'm cold because I'm tired of doing everything for everyone else. Is that what you think? Maybe I'm cold because I'm the only one who ever faced reality in this family while you two just made excuses for him. I heard her breath catch on the other end of the line. But instead of backing down, she continued, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you talk like this. Emily, you don't know what it's like to have a child who struggles with everything. You don't know what it's like to fight for someone who doesn't appreciate it. I could feel my chest tightening, every word she said making the knot in my stomach twist tighter. The anger was overwhelming now, and I couldn't keep it in anymore. I've been fighting for him, Mom. I've been fighting for him my whole life. But he's never going to change as long as you keep coddling him. You're part of the reason he's like this. You always make excuses for him, and it's never his fault. That was the moment everything exploded. There was a long, deadly silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, and I knew that she was fighting back tears. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was shaking, but it was laced with a coldness I'd never heard before. You're right, she said quietly. Maybe I have protected him too much. Maybe I've made excuses. But you want to know the truth, Emily. You're the one who's been causing problems in this family all along. You've always been so damn perfect. So you think you're better than us, better than Luke. And maybe that's why he's like this, because you never let him just be himself. You always made him feel like he wasn't good enough. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. The words were like a physical blow to my chest. My mind was racing, but I couldn't form a response. I was paralyzed by the hurt. But before I could even process it, the line went dead. I stared at my phone, numb, unable to breathe. I had no idea how to move from here. My own mother had just thrown me under the bus, blamed me for everything that had gone wrong in Luke's life, when all I'd ever done was try to be there for him. And in that moment, I realized something that hit me harder than anything else. I had finally reached the point where I could no longer stay silent. The family I had worked so hard to hold together was slipping through my fingers, and I didn't know how to stop it. I spent the rest of the night in a fog, After the phone call ended, I sat on the couch in the dim light of my living room, staring at the empty space in front of me. My mind was a chaotic blur of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and confusion, all swirled together in a mix I couldn't untangle. The words my mother had said to me echoed in my head, repeating like a broken record. You think you're better than us. You're the problem in this family, and the coldest one of all. You're just like your father. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. The fact that she could accuse me of being the problem, after everything I had done for her, for Luke, was incomprehensible. But the worst part, the part that hurt the most, was how deeply she had cut me. To hear my own mother, the one person I thought I could always count on, say those words was like a physical blow to my chest. The longer I sat there, the more my heart sank. I couldn't stop replaying the argument over and over in my head. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to take back everything I'd said, to go back to the way things were before everything started falling apart. But no matter how much I wished it, I knew that wasn't possible. The truth was, I had already made my choice. Walking away that night, cutting myself off from them, had been hard. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it had been necessary. Luke had pushed me too far, and my mother's refusal to see what was happening, her blind defense of him, made me feel suffocated. I was suffocating under the weight of their expectations, under the weight of always being the good one, the responsible one. I didn't talk to anyone the next few days. I needed space, needed time to process everything that had happened. Every time I thought about my mom's words, I felt a pang of guilt. Was I really being selfish? Was I really as cold as she said I was? But then I would remember Luke's face's indifference when he asked me to bail him out, the way he always shrugged off the consequences of his actions. How had we gotten to this point? How had I become the villain in my own family's story? Was it my fault that I had reached my breaking point? I tried calling my mom once, but I couldn't bring myself to press call. I just stared at the screen, my finger hovering over her name in my contacts list. But the moment I thought about hearing her voice, I froze. I knew I couldn't go back, not yet, maybe not ever. A few days later, I bumped into an old friend, Claire, at the grocery store. We hadn't seen each other in years, but when she saw me, she came over and wrapped me in a big hug. She could see right away that something was wrong. Emily, what's going on? She asked, her voice full of concern. I felt a lump in my throat. It's my family. It's Luke and my mom. Claire nodded, her face softening. I heard about Luke getting arrested. That must be tough. Yeah, I said, swallowing hard. It's been a lot. She looked at me with sympathy. I know you've always tried to help him in, but maybe it's time to let him figure things out on his own. It's not easy, but sometimes you can't keep carrying the weight for everyone else. I felt my throat tighten. It was like she had read my mind, but hearing her say it out loud was a punch to the gut. Was I really just enabling him? Had I been doing more harm than good all these years? I don't know what to do anymore, Claire. I'm so tired of being the only one who seems to care, the only one who's trying to fix things. And now, my mom, she actually blamed me for everything. Claire gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry, Emily, but honestly, you can't keep sacrificing yourself for them. You've tried. You've done everything you could. But you can't make other people change. All you can do is decide what's best for you. Her words hit me harder than I expected. It was the first time someone had truly validated how I felt. The first time someone had told me that I wasn't in the wrong for needing to step away. That nights, I found myself staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I didn't know if I could ever fix my relationship with my mom. Part of me wanted to reach out, to apologize for the things I said in anger, to make everything right again. But another part of me knew that I couldn't go back to the way things were. I couldn't pretend that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the problem wasn't just Luke. It wasn't just my mom. It was the way they both expected me to play a role. Never asked for to be the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who held it all together. I had spent my entire life trying to live up to that expectation, but in the end, it had left me empty. It had drained me, and when I tried to speak up, when I tried to draw a line, I was the one who was blamed. Maybe I was wrong to walk away. Maybe I was being selfish, cold, and distant. But part of me knew that if I didn't put myself first, I would lose who I was completely. and I couldn't let that happen. I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know how to repair the damage between me and my mom, or if it was even worth it. All I knew was that I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for them. I couldn't keep being the glue that held everything together, only to watch it all fall apart again and again. As the days passed, I continued to reflect on everything. The guilt lingered, but so did the clarity. I was done pretending, done holding everything in, and as much as I loved my family, I knew I couldn't keep living for them. I had to live for myself now, but the question still haunted me. Was I wrong to walk away? Was it wrong to finally put my own needs above theirs? I didn't know the answer, but I also didn't know how to go back. Maybe, one day, I would find a way to repair what had been broken. But for now, I had to trust that this decision was the right one for me. What would you do in my position? Would you walk away, or would you try to fix things no matter how much it cost you? What do you think? Have you ever had to make the tough decision to walk away from family? Was it the right choice, or did you regret it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you balance family obligations with taking care of your own mental health? Drop your comments below. I could really use some perspective right now.